Shalom, giving all praises to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, with double honors to the apostles, elders of Great Millstone. May Yahweh Bashim Yahushui's peace be bestowed unto you, hopefully elect. I'm your brother Yahweh Call from the Great Millstone, Orlando. And in light of this campaign by your boy Trump in so-called making America great again, and a part of that campaign, Trump basically trying to keep America on top, keep the dollar as the world reserve currency and things of that nature. With all these moves that he's making to try to, again, make America great and keep America on top. And like the scripture say, I'm going to grab this, Jeremiah. Because like it said all the time, you can kick the can down the road for so long. Eventually the world, or eventually the road comes to an end. So I'm going to grab this in Jeremiah. Jeremiah 50. Bear with me. Slakia, Jeremiah 51 and 8. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain. If so, she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go, everyone, into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up, even to the skies. So without further ado, in light of this Fed cutting the rates, the rate cuts, as I'm going to play this video here by Redacted, they can just explain it better. Because, that's the thing with these guys, these Glenn Becks, Redacted, and them. These guys, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai set certain of these guys up to really break it down in a way. Although they don't have they can't connect the dots, you see, and that's where the prophets come in to connect the dots. So without further ado, I'm gonna play this video by Redacted. Of course, fair use. I'm not making any type of monetary gain. This is just for informational purposes.
Well, today the Federal Reserve cut rates, finally, and we predicted this, of course, a number of weeks ago. The Fed cut the benchmark federal funds rate, which, of course, is a key policy rate for, influences borrowing costs. It influences businesses, consumers, governments. Mortgages not tied to this. They tend to follow about a year later. But yes, a big cut from the Federal Reserve. We all knew that this was coming. And, of course, this is a big moment for the U.S. dollar. This is a further erosion of the U.S. dollar. And what does this mean for gold? What does this mean for silver? What does this mean for our retirement accounts? What does this mean for people that have like a savings account right now? What does this mean for people that are buying treasury bonds, hoping to get some sort of a good return on their investment? Americans right now are trying whatever they can do to make their U.S. dollar stretch as far as possible. So what does this mean? We want to bring in our friend of the show, Kevin Demerit. He's the CEO of Lear Capital. He knows this stuff inside and out. We'd like to check in with him from time to time. We are here on a big day, though. Kevin, great to see you.
Great to see you.
So I think, at the 30,000 foot level, what do you think that this means for the U.S. dollar, the further erosion? I mean, I don't want to lead the witness here, but if you've got like a couple $1,000s in a U.S. savings account in U.S. dollars, like you're a family and you're trying to protect your family and preserve your wealth, and you've got this money sitting in U.S. dollars right now, this is, to me, a big erosion of the value of that U.S. dollar, is it not?
Absolutely. I mean, rate cuts absolutely weaken the U.S. dollar. And what you're seeing around the world, even prior to this, is a lot of central banks have already been selling U.S. dollars and swapping it for another asset, which is precious metals. I mean, they've had 3 years of record purchases on the gold market, and it'll probably be the fourth year, especially with this rate cut. I mean, already this year, they're above schedule from last year. I mean, they've purchased more gold this year than they have last year, especially China. So I think this move will accelerate that. And really, if we get some more of these cuts, then the dollar, in my opinion, will start to have many more problems over the next 6 to 9 months.
I had a friend of mine who's a big time investor. He reached out to me today. He said, Clayton, I don't think people understand. Like, people don't understand what's about to happen to the U.S. dollar structurally over the next 4 to 5 years. This is really all about China, and as we've talked, it's really the unwinding of the Bretton Woods Agreement, 80 years of policy that had a U.S. dollar dominance in this world. And now you've seen, as a hedge, as a hedge against the Soviets, as a hedge against communism. But the Obama-Biden era really unraveled this, allowed China to, use U.S. dollars to basically flood our market with goods, and in many ways, handicap the United States in dramatic ways. The rise of China. But structurally, over the next 4 to 5 years, as China continues to dump U.S. dollars, Japan, all of these countries realigning right now.
So I'm going to rewind that part back.
See, that had a U.S. dollar dominance in this world. And now you've seen, as a hedge against the Soviets, as a hedge against communism. But the Obama-Biden era really unraveled this, allowed China to, use U.S. dollars to basically flood our market with goods, and in many ways, handicap the United States in dramatic ways. The rise of China. But structurally, over the next 4 to 5 years, as China continues to dump U.S. dollars, Japan, all of these countries realigning right now.
And you see 2 quick points. I'm going to grab this here first in Obadiah 1. Because, well, I'm going to just read it in Obadiah 1. In 7, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Pretty much when it comes to a lot of these, the economic side of things, right? Hell, even the when it comes to the military side of things, just in general, Esau, basically these nations, especially Moab, which the scriptures go into how Moab is basically like a copycat of Babylon. She takes the same blueprint from Babylon, and now to the point they're using it against Babylon, you see. And secondly, like he was mentioning with these different nations and how they are, because again, like I just read in Jeremiah 51, no matter what you do to try to patch up this incurable wound, like I said, man, you can keep the can down the road, but eventually the road comes to an end. You see, and this is just another Band-Aid on a, again, incurable wound as far as these rate cuts. Because how I look at it, how I can see it, more, it's just gonna further the debt. All right, and that's another thing. You blow air into a bubble, and that's why just meditating on it, man. This crash, however they do it, however it plays out, man, it's going to be crazy when you really get into it. Because as I was saying, you can only inflate the balloon so long, man. Eventually the balloon's gonna pop. You see, and as far as this debt bubble, man, oh my goodness, when this thing pops, oh my goodness, when this debt bubble pops, man, it's gonna be crazy. Playing on.
We're going to see a huge drop off in U.S. dollars over the next 4 to 5 years. Do you agree or disagree with his thoughts?
Well, I agree with his thoughts, and I think what maybe he's trying to explain to people is that when you sell U.S. dollars, if you're a foreign country and selling U.S. dollars, those dollars get repatriated back into the United States. So the definition of inflation or a devaluing dollar is too many dollars chasing too few goods. If you're liquidating literally hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars worth of U.S. treasuries, and you're replacing it with something else. Let's not worry about the something else right now. But you're just selling off those dollars. They're coming back to the United States. If everybody sold dollars, they're coming back to the United States. All of that money will start to create an enormous amount of inflation. So your example of the person in a savings account has already taken a 20% drop since 2020 just because of the rate of inflation. Now you accelerate that. So what is the Fed doing right now? They're lowering interest rates. That makes the dollar weaker from a foreign standpoint. The foreigners start liquidating those dollars. Those dollars come back to the United States, and you've got an inflationary problem again.
And I think these guys are afraid to use the term hyperinflation because, like you were saying, the fact that these nations, I touched on the other week going into Japan, which is one of America's allies, and as I just read in Obadiah, those that were a confederacy with thee. You see, those that were in league with thee, right? Because at some point, all of America's allies are going to turn on America, and we're already seeing that play out. All right. But a part of that, like I mentioned, Japan dumping the treasury bonds. All right, more and more nations doing away with the dollar. Overall, man, like he was breaking down, all those dollars coming back to America. And that's why I said I think they're afraid to use the term hyperinflation. Because man, once all those dollars flooding back to America, that's exactly what we're going to see here. All right, hyperinflation.
That makes the dollar weaker from a foreign standpoint. The foreigners start liquidating those dollars. Those dollars come back to the United States, and you've got an inflationary problem again. Possibly you have something even worse. You have stagflation. You have kind of this slow economy with inflation all happening at the same time, which is absolutely horrible. Because they're stuck. You can't lower interest rates because the economy, because of the dollar is weakening so much, and can't help the economy to lower interest rates far enough to get that going. So I think the biggest challenge we have right now is stagflation. If you took AI out of the mix in the U.S. economy, I think the economy is pretty close to recession or already in recession. You start lowering interest rates, and now you're going to have the inflation start popping back up.
Can you explain what stagflation is? I've heard this over the past couple of weeks from a number of people that I trust, saying that that's really the story here is stagflation. And I think you're absolutely right to bring up AI, because that is where the focus is. By lowering the value of the U.S. dollar right now, by lowering interest rates, all of this sort of investment or push to try to stop China from the rise in AI, that's really what the focus of the Trump administration right now is in the United States, to try to compete with China, which is already really advanced in AI. So I think you're right. If you remove that component, what are we looking at? We just had a jobs report last week.
No, I would say, hypothetically speaking, and that's why Yahweh Shai is going to come in, Lord willing, sooner than soon, get us out of here. Because hypothetically speaking, if we were to be here, I used to say, hypothetically speaking, another 100 years, but just the way that things are going, I say, shit, if we were here another 50 years, maybe lesser than that. America would be, China would be the new America, and Russia would be the new NATO. But again, Yahweh Shah is going to come and get us out of here before it gets to that point. You see, because America's through. This place is finished.
Bloomberg reported 78,000 jobs, manufacturing jobs lost in the first few months of this year. We're seeing jobs being bled left and right, but we're being told, the economy's fine. So can you just explain stagflation and where do you see the jobs numbers in all of this?
Well, I think the jobs number, I'll start with the jobs numbers first. I think the job numbers get worse and worse. I mean, AI is taking over a lot of industries out there. I mean, I just created a video in a minute and a half with some prompting that I would have had to pay, $3,000 or $4,000 for. Not only did I create the video, but I had a voiceover that was AI that sounded fantastic. So, you knock the whole thing out for about $1.50. There's podcasts, but there's podcasts out there, that AI is doing that people are starting to listen to. I mean, I just saw a company that put out 1,300 podcasts all on AI. It's manufacturing, farming, everything.
Yeah, that's pretty much it there. Again, America is basically trying to keep up with Moab and them, the so-called Chinese, because they would be the new America if we were to be here another 50, 100 years. Because America's losing, all right? But again, as far as these Fed rates or these rate cuts. It's just another band-aid on an incurable wound. And as I see it, man, more printing, all right, which is more devaluing, because with these rate cuts, basically makes borrowing cheaper. So to sum it up, like I said, more printing, money printing, which would devalue the dollar more. All right. And hey, America is going to make all the depressions of 2008. All right. Germany is going to make all these depressions look like child's play. Like I said, man, when this debt bubble, man, when it pops, man, oh my goodness. The scripture said we prophesy in part, man. Especially these Americans, and how they're not used to. They're used to having things their way. They're used to everything being handed to them on a silver platter. They're not used to suffering loss. But like the scriptures say, in a moment you're going to suffer loss. All right, you're going to experience the loss of widowhood. All right, the loss of children, roughly paraphrasing. All right, grab this real quick. Bear with me. And I've said this before, and this is not in any way, shape, form, or fashion, put myself on a level. But nevertheless, Yahweh Shema Shai is dealing. Instead of, running from the fact, hey, just embrace it, Yahweh Shema Shai, he's dealing with somebody. So with that being said, because I've been getting a lot of these premonitions, and it was further confirmation for me, just through the Spirit, humbly saying this. It was further confirmation back when this whole exposing of Al-Azhar, all right, earlier this year. I remember towards the latter end of last year, when we were doing a split camp. I mentioned this on camera, and I told brothers about it, about this premonition that I had about something happening to Sakari that was going to basically break them up. And I told brothers about it because I have a brother who follows that camp. So, I was mentioning how with this premonition, man, I had that something would happen to Sakari. Something was going to happen to Sakari. It was going to break them up. And, my brother who follows Sakari, he would come to me and ask him questions and things of that nature. And long story short, man, that's exactly what happened. Call Allah Yahweh Shema Shah, you can't make this up. They say you can't make this shit up. You can't make the Lord up, man. That's exactly what happened. Earlier this year, this whole shit with Sakari, all right, the exposing of Al-Azhar. And I'll never forget it. It was that Sunday. It was a Sunday. It was a first Sunday. First Sunday, we usually go to my old spot where I teach. And it's cold because, man, again, man, you can't make the Lord up, man. Because when I started going out there, before I crossed over the Great Millstone, I was going out there on international, what they call the Eye of Orlando. I was going out there, and I would put curses up on that place because all the construction, it was pretty hell. It was hell, it was hell. All the construction and things of that nature. So I will put up curses that whatever they were building, that it wouldn't come to. It wouldn't come to. And sure enough, I kid you not, you know, the last day I went out there before I crossed over, because I still go out there from time to time. But the last day I went out there by myself before I crossed over the Great Millstone, that was when the incident with that boy. I think that 14-year-old boy, he fell off that ride. And that shit took place less than an hour. That shit happened right after I left. I left my teaching. You know, so hey, you can't make that up, man. Now they got a slingshot out there, you know. But hey, like the scripture say, the Lord, they build, but the Lord will throw down. So, you know, it's just a matter of time. You know, it's just a matter of time. But you can't make the Lord up, man. So I just say all that to say, you know, like the Apostle Tar says, there's lessons within lessons. All right, testimonies, man. But as I was gonna say, because as I mentioned with that premonition dealing with Sakari, like I said, as I was saying, that first Sunday, I remember it. As we're departed and I'm heading home, you know, I'm checking my phone. I got all these text messages from my brother who followed Sakari at the time. You know, I didn't know what he was talking about. Because I would tell my brother all the time, you know, we would get into, I'm not even going to say heated arguments. I'll say zealous, because, you know, the Lord, he allowed me to, and brothers know my testimony, you know, dealing with another camp, being a part of another camp. The Lord allowed me to be seasoned enough to, hey, I can, for the most part, I could see that bullshit from a mile away, man. And, you know, just trying to, out of love, let my brother know what the deal is with this guy, his so-called leader, you know. But hey, you know, it is what it is. And you just got to a point, of course it gets to a point where you just like, you know what, hey, it is what it is, you know. You do you, man. But long story short, like I said, going back into it, man, because I would always try to tell him about this guy. You know, he ain't right. So that Sunday, I was on my way to the crib, and I got all these texts from my brother. You know, and I know what he was talking about, but as soon as I got to the crib, man, you know, seeing the shit, finding out about the whole Al-Azhar situation. So like I said, man, you can't make the Lord up, man. But again, lessons within lessons, all right? To bring it back full circle, because again, dealing with this premonition, if you will, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing, but like Apostle Kabar says all the time, you got to be a visionary. You got to be able to see it. And this is just another. I see it. I can see it. I can see it. As far as, like I said, with this debt bubble, man. Oh my goodness. Because right now, this is a part of why they're tearing France up. All right. You know, they're cutting back on their budgeting and things of that nature. So they're cutting back on certain programs. They're cutting into people's pensions, which it just goes to show you, these Americans, man, what it's going to take for these people to get roused up. Because what's going on in these as far as these protests in these other nations, you know, people are tearing shit up for way less in other places. So it's like, what are these Americans? What are they waiting on? Here it is. You had the whole brother brought it out about the I think Vietnamese, how millions of people just woke up to and not being able to have access to their bank accounts because they didn't want to basically agree to the new system that they're trying to usher in. You see? So, just speaking as a man, as far as those Vietnamese, I suspect the protests, riots, you know, just more fuel to the fire. But this is what's going on in France. This is why they're tearing France up. All right. So, like I said, because, over time, I've reported on bail-ins, right, and things of that nature, to where basically under whatever narrative, they can basically tap into your savings, right? Again, if you look into what a bail-in is, look into what bail-ins are. They can basically just take your money, legally. There's nothing you can do about it. You see? So when things like this start to happen, people not being able to access their money, right? The price of everything, again, hyperinflation, right? I'll read this real quick. I want to grab that in Revelation 6, but I want to read this real quick in Zephaniah 2 and 15. This is the rejoicing city that dwelt carelessly, that said in her heart, I am, and there is none else beside me. You see, because again, the normalcy bias spirit of these Americans, although they see what's going on in these other places, because it's not touching them yet, it's not affecting them yet, or it will. And that's the point that I'm making. When it does, oh my goodness, I can see it. People jumping off buildings. I could see this, downtown where we're teaching. Hey, I see it. People jumping off buildings. People jumping off those 30, 40, 50 story buildings, man, because, whatever reason, stock market crash, whatever, for whatever reason, dealing with the finances, whatever, I could see it. Like I said, because it's not affecting them yet. They turn a blind eye to it. They just, well, hey, that's them. That's over there. All right, just wait. It says how it should become a desolation, a place for beasts to lie down, and everyone that passes by her shall hiss and wag his hand. And even before the nuclear destruction, that's how Yahweh Shema Shah works. Before he completely destroys you, he exposes you. It's a slow death. America's already a laughing stock. I just mentioned the other day about, Trump going over there to the UK, man, and they're talking all type of cash shit against your boy Trump, man. America's a laughing stock. All right. You see, I want to go to this in Revelation because again, man, when this debt bubble pops, man, oh my goodness. The scriptures talk about neighbor against neighbor. Right? I always say, hey, people are going to go about it the ski mask way. All right? They're just going to get it how they can. Because again, man, one thing's going to lead to another. Like I said, man, some say depression 2.0. I say depression times 10. A Great Depression times 10. This thing is going to spill over. And when it does, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Especially like I just read, these Americans, they live carelessly, right? Thinking they can't be touched. These Americans, they're not used to suffering loss. They're not used to being uncomfortable like that, for real. But man, when Yahweh Shema Shah, the more the Lord strikes his place, man. And that's what's called about it, because like the scriptures say, when judgment come to America, it's going to come in perfection. So in that sudden destruction, you see, we see the building blocks. Yahweh Shema Shah is setting this place up for the ultimate okie doke. All right, the ultimate knockout blow. Because when all from the plagues to the economic the economic downfall, all right, when war start to break, when all these things take place, it's just going to come suddenly in a moment. It's just going to hit. And I always emphasize what the scriptures emphasize. And what do the scriptures emphasize? It emphasizes that sudden destruction. So when it comes, it's just going to come in its perfection. So these people, man, these Americans, they're in for a rude awakening. They're in for a rude awakening. And I can't wait to see it, Lord willing. Revelation 6 and 5. And when he had opened that third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." Yeah, somehow Yahweh Shema Shai, he already has the details worked out for brothers. The elect. Hey, the Lord promised someone was going to eat. Well, he promised the elect were going to eat during the time of famine, because that's what this is going to lead to, man. All right, like was mentioned, all these dollars, when they come back to America, all right. Hey, before they switch over to this new system, man, they have to crash this old. They have to crash this current system. They have to crash it. It's a controlled demolition. So in that process, in the meantime, hey, it's gonna be lawlessness, houses, and women, for that part, ravished, right? It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. I've been paying attention to the tax sales, man. When I purchase anything, it's like, God damn, taxes, man, is kicking Jake's ass. But hey, I always say, we talk that talk as far as the prophecies. Things are gonna get bad, but hey, we have to walk that walk too. We have to go through it too. We have to live through it. So again, like I said, hurt not the oil and the wine. Hey, again, Yahweh Shema Shai, he already has the details worked out for his elect. You see, but just imagine that, man. That hyperinflation hits, because that's what this could lead to, man. This is just more fuel to the fire. And people are seeing it. When you read these comments, I always talk about pay attention to the comments in these videos. People are starting to wake up. People are starting to wake up. They've been waking up. But hey, they're without hope. We have hope. We have a lively hope. But just imagine that, man. You got to spend a whole paycheck, because that's what this, when it says a measure of wheat for a penny, right? 3 measures of barley for a penny. Well, just imagine that, man. Your whole day's wages, your whole paycheck. And then some for a loaf of bread, for some flour, for a bag of flour. That's hyperinflation. Man, like I said, man, this debt bubble, man, when this shit pops, oh my goodness. That's why I say, hey, there's going to be more people unaliving themselves. Like I said, man, people jumping out of those high-rise buildings, man. It's going to get crazy out here. It's going to get crazy. But hey, love to see it, But Lord willing, this is edifying. All praises to Yahweh, Shema Shai, Shalom to you, hopefully elect.